Today, we're going to be looking at how to avoid getting conned, especially by yourself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be focusing on the emotional and personal development side of this topic.
Okay, I like it.
Because let's face it, sometimes the biggest con we face is the one we pull on ourselves, right?
That's so true.
Yeah.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, an intense exploration of how you show up in life, business, and relationships, and how they're all connected in the infinite thread that is you. So let's get into the dive. Here's your hosts, Marcus and Nara.
Thanks for joining us here on The Deep Dive. I'm Nara Daniels.
And I'm Marcus Harrison. Welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking at how to avoid getting conned, especially by yourself.
You know, we think about con artists being these like slick external forces.
Right.
But, you know, Coach Dan really emphasizes the internal game, the emotional vulnerabilities that prime us to be conned in the first place.
Interesting. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit.
Yeah.
There are 5 emotional stages
Okay.
that can make us susceptible to being conned.
All right.
The first one is something we can probably all relate to: unfulfilled desires.
Yeah.
We all have these things that we think will make us happier, right? Whether it's a new car, a bigger house, or even like that perfect pair of shoes.
Absolutely. You know, it's not about judging those desires. You know, it's about recognizing that they exist and understanding how they can be manipulated. Because when we're fixated on something, you know, that's when we become vulnerable.
Right. And that's the second stage, fixation.
Okay.
You get so focused on that thing that it seems like the answer to everything.
Yeah.
Think about that feeling when you really want something. It's almost like a hunger. And con artists are experts at feeding that hunger.
Yeah. They promise the solution, you know, the missing piece.
Right.
And they often create that sense of urgency to push you over the edge.
Yes.
It's like limited time offers anyone.
Oh, I've totally fallen for that one before.
Yeah.
The fear of missing out is so powerful.
It really is.
It's like logic goes out the window. You're so caught up in what you might lose,
Yeah.
you don't even stop to think.
Exactly. You know, that's that third stage, fear of missing out.
Right.
And that's what short circuits our rational decision making. We're not thinking clearly. And that's when we make those impulsive choices.
Right. And then there's that whole thing with price tags. We equate high prices with exclusivity,
Yes,
or low prices with a steal.
of course.
You know, like that $30,000 handbag. Is it really worth that much, or are we just buying into that perceived luxury?
Right. The price itself can distort our judgment.
Yes.
You know, we tell ourselves, oh, it's expensive, so it must be good.
Right.
But that's not always the case.
It's like we're trying to convince ourselves.
Exactly.
And then finally we get to the point where we're avoiding advice from people we trust.
That's a huge red flag.
Yes.
If we're not even willing to hear what our loved ones think.
Right.
It's often because deep down we know something isn't quite right.
It's like we're so caught up in the idea and the fantasy that we don't want anything to burst our bubble.
Yeah.
When the con does unravel, we often blame ourselves. We feel shame. Like, how could I have been so stupid?
That shame is so powerful.
It is.
Because it keeps us silent. You know, it prevents us from seeking help or holding the con artist accountable.
So what can we actually do about it? Because it feels like we're almost setting ourselves up to be conned with these emotional stages.
You're right. You know, these stages really show us how we are already primed for this.
Right.
You know, it's not just about stupidity. It's about emotional vulnerability.
Right.
But there's hope. You know, Coach Dan lays out these con killers, strategies to combat these very traps. And the first one is crucial. Remember that wants are not always needs.
Right. Wants versus needs. But how do we actually apply that when we're in the thick of it, feeling that pull towards something?
Well, that's where the real work comes in. It's about like getting to the root of our desires, you know, and asking ourselves, what am I really seeking here? You know, will this thing truly bring me lasting fulfillment?
So it's not just about denying ourselves.
Right.
It's about understanding what's driving that desire.
Exactly. Because, you know, true fulfillment often comes from within, not from those external things.
Okay.
Now, the next con killer is one of my favorites.
Wait.
Then negotiate.
I love that.
Yeah.
Taking back your power.
Yes.
Because so often that sense of urgency is manufactured. You know, those limited time offers we were talking about.
Yeah.
Coach Dan Gordon says to remember, people are often more desperate to sell than we are to buy.
Yeah. Taking that time allows us to detach emotionally. and see things more clearly.
Right.
Plus, who doesn't love a good negotiation?
Right.
You know, it really shifts the power dynamic in your favor.
Totally. It's like you're saying, I'm not just going to take your word for it. I'm going to do my research and make sure this is truly a good deal for me.
Yes.
And finally, there's the power of seeking trusted advice.
You know, even if your friends and family don't know anything about, the specific product or service, they can offer an invaluable outside perspective.
Right.
They can ask questions we haven't considered,
Yeah.
help us see those blind spots created by our own desires.
It's like having an extra set of eyes. And sometimes they can spot those red flags that we miss because we're so emotionally invested.
Right. And sometimes, just talking it through with someone can help us realize we're not thinking as clearly as we thought we were.
Now, here's something that really blew my mind. You're 70% more likely to be conned again within 3 years.
Wow.
That seems counterintuitive, right?
It might. But think about it this way. We often become hyper aware of the specific situation where we got conned. It's like getting in a car accident at a certain intersection.
Okay.
You'll be extra cautious at that intersection from then on.
So we're avoiding the same trap.
But that doesn't mean we're a safer driver overall.
Right.
We might avoid that specific con, but that underlying vulnerability remains.
Right.
We're still susceptible to cons that exploit that same emotional pattern. And remember, our desires don't just disappear.
Right.
That need that got us conned in the first place, it's probably still there.
So we're almost set up for a repeat performance if we don't address that underlying need.
Exactly. And Coach Dan Gordon even shares this, heartbreaking story about people who get conned by a coach.
Oh, wow.
Then they hire another coach. And when they don't succeed, guess what?
What?
They blame themselves.
Oh, no.
They don't even want to admit they were conned again.
It's like that shame cycle we talked about before.
Yeah, it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
It's a way to protect our egos.
Right.
Easier to blame ourselves than acknowledge that we were vulnerable.
Right.
That we trusted the wrong person again.
So it's crucial to be kind to ourselves even when we make mistakes,
Absolutely.
to learn from them and move forward.
Now, Coach Dan brings up something totally unexpected. Amazon's return policy.
Okay.
He connects it back to his own coaching program.
Yeah. It sounds kind of random at first,
It does.
but it actually makes a lot of sense
Right.
when you think about it.
He guarantees his clients will reach their goals, offering a full refund if they don't. It's a powerful statement of faith in his clients and his process.
He even acknowledges it sounds insane, but he believes in it that strongly.
Right.
He's basically saying, I'm so confident in what I offer, I'm willing to take on the risk.
Right. It's not just about selling a program. It's about investing in people's potential.
Yeah.
And I think there's a powerful lesson in that for all of us.
So how do we apply this return policy concept to other areas of our lives?
Well, think about it this way. What would it look like to approach all our decisions,
Okay.
our relationships, our careers, our goals, with that same level of clarity and accountability? What if we were willing to refund anything that wasn't truly serving us?
Whoa. That's a big question.
It is.
It's like turning that whole fear of missing out at its head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about trusting ourselves enough to walk away from anything that doesn't align with our values, our goals, our truest selves.
It really is. Yeah. It's
Well-
like giving ourselves permission to change our minds, to course correct,
Yeah.
if something isn't working.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put all of this into practice?
Right.
It's one thing to talk about these concepts,
Yeah.
but another to use them in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. You're right. It all starts with that awareness,
Hmm.
recognizing those emotional triggers in ourselves,
Right.
understanding how they can be exploited. That's a huge first step.
It's like having that early warning system.
Exactly.
If you start feeling that fixation, that urgency, that fear of missing out,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to hit the pause button.
Exactly. Give yourself space to breathe, to think rationally, to seek advice from, those trusted sources we talked about.
Right.
And don't be afraid to question everything, even if it sounds too good to be true.
Right.
Because remember, if something sounds too good to be true,
Yeah.
it probably is.
And asking for help isn't a sign of weakness.
Right.
It's a sign of strength.
Absolutely.
It shows that you're committed to making informed decisions. You're not going to let your emotions completely run the show.
And if you do happen to get conned,
Yeah.
please don't beat yourself up about it.
Right.
Learn from the experience, strengthen your defenses, and move forward. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
It's about becoming more savvy, more discerning, more empowered in our choices. And that's a journey worth taking. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Coach Dan Gordon's work on avoiding getting conned, especially by ourselves. We only scratched the surface here, but hopefully this has given you some valuable insights and practical takeaways.
Yeah, if you're intrigued by this approach, we highly recommend checking out his work. He offers a ton of practical strategies, real-life stories, and those thought-provoking questions that'll help you navigate the world with more confidence and clarity.
I'm Marcus Harrison.
And I'm Nara Daniels.
And this has been The Deep Dive.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep questioning everything, and keep trusting your gut.
We hope you enjoyed the deep dive. Subscribe to the podcast for more deep dives as Nara and Marcus traverse the infinite exploration into the mind and soul of you. We'll see you next time on The Dive.